black? Is that what you just said? Is this the White House tapes? Because there's no sound. There's nothing being said. Did you just say that, sir?
According to his book or his relative's book.
So he was passing for white. That's what they used to
Yes.
do. Did you know that, Dr. Reid?
Well, according to the genealogy that you just laid out, if Adam was the first black person on the earth and everybody was derived from him, then Hitler and Trump and everybody else is black.
Mm-hmm.
That's just too much information. I feel like Paul is just too wonderful for me.
I'm just going on your analogy.
Okay.
Yeah, that's your analogy, Steve.
Well, I mean, I think in some research that the Garden of Eden was in Africa. So, hence, therefore, it's in Africa. Then, therefore, matter of fact, we didn't get to the separating of languages and all that till they start building the tower, trying to get to heaven. Confuse their language.
So what is Africa, and where did that name come from?
I do not know. What's that? Dost thou say?
It came from a white man. It was a Roman soldier, Africanus. Nobody from Africa called that country or that landmass Africa. But just like America, it was legitimate until a white man named it.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
So what
when you say Africa, you're saying something that a white man said, this is Africa. You say America, you're saying something that a white man called America. Nothing had legitimacy until it was named and written. We had oral traditions that were passed down for centuries with nothing in writing. Gutenberg started the printing press. With the advent of the printing press, they say, man, we can take some of these myths, twist them, and tell big lies now and mislead people from the oral tradition that had been passed down from indigenous people. And so Africa, if you look it up, see that Roman soldier who discovered it, named it, and because you put a name on it, he says, wow, I'm proud of that white man.
Y'all are causing all types of trouble. So what was the area called that had the Garden of Eden?
Well, there were several names, and they sounded similar to Africa. Ray Winbush, I don't know if you know him, but he is the African Studies professor. I keep on telling him to change that name over there at Morgan State. But the name was, it began with a K, and it wasn't Kemet, because that was a part of Africa. But, you know, when we were there, we learned the real name of what indigenous people on most of the continent, because it's a huge continent. There are 55 countries within Africa. And every single one of those countries were developed by a white man. He said, here is your border, Nigeria, and you will be called Nigeria. Here is your border, Ghana, and you will be Ghana. There are very few countries in Africa who were named by the indigenous people. They are very rich countries, but the people are poor. The people are poor because they've been sold a bill of goods and overexploited. my mentor used to say that when the missionaries went to Africa, they gave them the Bible and the Word of God while they took the gold and the oil and the resources. But they kept us looking up in some clouds, waiting for something to drop out while they made themselves rich with the resources of the country.
Yes, Dr. Reid, the original, Africa's original name was Al-Kabulin. It means mother of mankind.
That's right.
Al-Kabulin.
No, A-L-K-E-L-B is A-L-K-E-B-U-L-A-N.
And it
means mother of mankind or Garden of Eden.
Wow. Ring the bell. This is fantastic. All right. I've got two professors here, doctors of history, and so we can't help but learn. And I know you out there in Radio Land, when you hear this program, we'll be able to have your mouth open, or we can write with your mouth open and take notes at the same time. And but hopefully this will help some folks be upgraded, elevated. Good God Almighty! And
well, speaking of elevated, Steve,
yes,
the Statue of Freedom that sits above the top of the Capitol Dome in Washington D.C., was created by a Frenchman sculptor. But when he died in 1857, a former slave, that was a slave at the time, named Philip Reid, finished that statue. And when it was raised and placed on top of the Capitol Dome, he was a free man.
Isn't that like Benjamin Banneker, who actually created D.C.?
No, he didn't create D.C. He actually was the mathematician who did everything around D.C. But Philip Reid is the sculptor who created the Statue of Freedom that sits on the Capitol Dome.
Okay, that's awesome. And I'm going to go back to Benjamin Banneker. The reason why he did the streets in D.C. was to prevent the Confederate soldiers from coming in there and getting access to the White House. So it's very confusing, even today.
You mean the British soldiers?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. There you go. British soldiers. I knew it was somebody. Thanks for correcting me, sir. And that loop in Georgetown, I had personal experience with it. Dr. Reid, as I rode around it with my mother when she was alive for about 45 minutes trying to figure out how to get off and get to where we needed to go.
Absolutely.
You mentioned about DC, about they have the actual largest formation of a cross in the country.
Largest formation of a cross.
Actually, well, the Capitol, the Washington Monument, the Jefferson, the White House, the Lincoln, and the Capitol Dome. If you look at a map, an overlay of a map, it forms a cross.
Didn't know that. And all these things are inside of your book, The Hidden Treasures, huh?
Yeah, but it can be on your map. You can take a map and you can look at it. You can see it for yourself. Anyone can see it.
Interesting. So the tenet foundations of this country, although it was enslavement, they mouth the words that they were Christians at the same time. I think I read something, this might cause problems, that God did not disavow slavery. He just said you had to be nice to your slave and treat him well, like Onesimus. That was a slave to Paul. Treat him well. Don't abuse him. Folks, they're not going to like that one. I'm just saying why can't we have some white slaves?
Oh, they are. I mean, they have been. You know, there were African Americans that owned white slaves, or
Yes, there
Africans
was.
that
There was
owned white
African
slaves.
that owned black slaves too.
Absolutely.
And some American
Absolutely.
Indians owned some black slaves too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, so nobody has a corner on the market. I think that what made ours distinctively different, you know, we have to realize that in any type of warfare, psychological warfare, psychological war, these are things that are put in place to sow seeds in people's minds. So slavery just didn't come about in 1609, like the project talks about. But from, once again, the sex trafficker Christopher Columbus and Amerigo Vespucci in the 1400s, they set the tone for the dehumanization of Africans and indigenous people. So when it came time for slavery in the 1600s, 1700s, these were no longer humans. In Deuteronomy, it tells you how to treat a slave. And it tells you what to give them when you free them. So reparations is biblical. It tells you specifically.
Well, have they read the have the Senate read Deuteronomy? House of Representatives?
Well, the Senate has read a lot of things, but they will only interpret it in light of what helps them. My uncle, Reverend Clay Evans in Chicago, ordained Jesse Jackson. Yeah, he's dead now. But
I love Clay Evans. Love that man.
He used to tell me all the time, son, when you hire a lawyer, you don't want a lawyer that will tell the truth. You want a lawyer that will tell my truth. I'm not interested in the truth. I want you to tell my truth. And so when you talk about the Senate reading Deuteronomy, they're going to read it from their perspective. They don't want to tell you the truth. They want to tell their truth. Same thing with the evangelicals and their support of Trump over the years. Don't tell me the truth. I'm telling you my truth. And that's a part of psychological warfare. You know, there's a book out called Undaunted by my good friend, John O'Brennan, who's a former director of the CIA. And there's a guy who's, you know, really, really has 50 years of his life. He's a legend. He is the real 007. His name is Mr. Allen. You can Google him. And Mr. Allen I've met him before. He's told me many, many things. But it's interesting in how they get ready to do something. They plant the seeds first. You have to make a boogeyman. So whether it's Saddam Hussein, whether it's
COVID-19,
whoever it is, you have to make. Yeah. So these seeds are planted long before any shot is ever fired. You know.
Speaking of
perfect example of that was how Trump made Colin Kaepernick the boogeyman, even though it was a white guy who was a Green Beret, encouraged him to kneel. And he twisted and flipped it and told them that he was against the military and against the flag. Yeah, but see, what people want to get cute with that. Federal law basically states that a flag only supposed to hang on its own vertically. It's supposed to hang freely